Hi to everyone in our Burlingame community. My name is Sarah Maloney. I am one of the school psychologists. I'm actually one of three school psychologists in the Burlingame School District. And for those of you who don't know, I'm actually part of the larger mental health team, which includes three school psychologists, four school counselors, two school psychologist interns, a special education mental health therapist, and our district behaviorist. So on behalf of the greater Burlingame mental health team, I would like to talk to you today about what to expect when you're expecting to return to school. And this is more in the mental health lens. So for the next 10 minutes, I'd like to dedicate our time to talking about the mental health component of returning to in-person learning. We will be talking about both sides, some of the positive and the possible anxieties with returning to school. But the best way to start any transition is to communicate the positives with your children and family. So to start there, many of our students, we want to acknowledge, are going to be really excited about returning to campus. Campus might feel like an extension of their home and back to a routine that they might be really excited to re-engage in. So talk about these with your family and your students about what they're looking forward to and what are the possible positives of that will come out of returning to school. This could just be a really great way to kind of get them back excited about school. Next, in anticipation for that first day, what we really need is your help. We need our help, your help in, yes, getting children back to school, but getting them back into those morning routines. Routines and expectations are such a vital role in everyone's mental health. And in a time of COVID, it's something that adults and children have been sorely missing, are the routines and expectations of that. So some of our children have been participating in childcare centers or learning pods and may have maintained some of that morning routine. However, there are others who haven't, and this could be a really difficult thing for them. So we're asking that you please practice these morning routines before that first day of school. This means getting dressed and eating before the time that you would normally leave for school, doing full dress rehearsals, and practice packing up backpacks and lunches. If your student is going to be returning on the 30th, please take the next 2 weeks to really solidify a bedtime, meaning like no electronics before bedtime and a strict bedtime time, and their morning routines. I know this is a huge thing to ask, especially during a holiday, but even if you practice it a little bit, it will be really helpful for our children in the end. If your child is someone who's kind of routinely struggled with routines, then I would encourage you to front load and practice and talk about it the night before. Do a feelings check-ins or start the mornings off with some positive affirmations. You can also give your child choices in the morning. This can make it easier on them and feel more special. For example, listening to music while they get ready, or asking them what they want to have for breakfast. They're ways to kind of build in more incentive to participate in morning routines when children have more choices in them. Speaking of breakfast and food, another main component we need help with is snack time. I know many of our students have enjoyed this kind of all-inclusive resort style where they get to just grab a snack anytime they're feeling like it throughout the day, but this won't be the case during in-person learning. So we would really like it if families can help practice more structured snack times. And this is really to help our learners not be distracted by their bellies throughout the day when they come back on campus. And I do want to acknowledge a lot of these aspects seem very like logistical. Their impact on students' mental health is actually it's a huge impact. Having established routines and expectations is a foundational facet to everyone's well-being. So this will be a huge push in the right direction if you can kind of work on these morning routines. So speaking of, now that you have those morning routines down, what to expect on that first day. We want to talk about that first day expectations, and I know everyone will be receiving or has already received a lot of information about your school specific, like plans for drop off and pickup, but I want to take a second and talk about the emotional and community side of drop off and pickup. As a elementary school district, we typically pride ourselves on building the community around our campuses. And those connections are typically built by parents volunteering or chatting before and after school. But unfortunately, during the time of COVID, this can't be the case. We're asking that parents don't congregate in front of school, and parents won't be allowed to walk their child on campus. And we all know that you would love to walk your child to their classroom on the first day, especially for the young ones. But this, to ensure everyone's safety, we aren't allowing parents to come on campus. So with your children, please talk with them and explain that you're going to be saying your goodbyes prior to the check-in stations. And their classmates and their teacher will be walking them to their school or classroom. Look at the drop-off and pick-off maps as a family. Really kind of talk about how you're going to say goodbye on that first day. Anxieties really stem from the unknown. So please go through pick-up and drop-off procedures with your students and kind of alleviate some of that. And speaking of general maybe anxieties or even like separation anxiety, we do want to talk a bit more about that in general. So let's talk about those anxious thoughts that children might experience. We discussed the excitement, and that might come with the return to school and in-person learning, but that doesn't mean there won't be anxiety too. For the past several months, your students have been at home with you. Naturally, they may experience some separation anxiety with coming back to school. Parents may notice anxiety in terms of increased clinginess, even in the older children, or more frequent crying or emotional outbursts, difficulty or unwillingness to adapt to new routines, or unexplained tummy or headaches or other physical complaints. Some ways you can help your child avoid or work through these feelings of anxiety are to validate and acknowledge your child's feelings. Stay calm, even if you aren't feeling calm yourself or anxious. Don't deny the reality of the risks of returning to school, but focus on the safety measures that are in place and the benefits of returning. Practice and keep practicing those routines while encouraging flexibility. Let your child know that things will likely change and you can be prepared for those changes. And remember that some anxiety and changes in behaviors are to be expected. But if your child is experiencing significant distress or anxieties that are longer lasting, please contact the principal or the school's mental health team, because we are all here to support and work through these challenges together. If their anxieties or fears are more around COVID and their health, again, those are very valid, and to be honest, they're felt by everyone right now. So talk through them as a whole family. What we can do as mental health professionals and families is to really address those concerns. Our school and community are doing so much to try and keep everyone safe, but in order for this to work, we need everyone to participate in these safety precautions. When you're talking with your students, talk about how their school or classroom or even their teachers might look a little different. If they're worried about their health, go through the steps that the school is taking to keep everyone safe. There's going to be temperature checks at the gate to ensure that no one with a fever or who might be feeling ill that day is coming on campus. Children, they might not see their friends or their teachers' faces because everyone will be in masks, but please reassure them that for every teacher, there is definitely a smile behind those masks, and everyone is excited to see them there, but they might not see their full face. We are going to be maintaining the social distance and try and keep everyone in a safe distance from each other. You can practice as a family of what 6 feet actually looks like in a classroom or outside. There'll be frequent hand washing and sanitizing, and then reassure your student that every day the school will be disinfected. Again, please validate their fears. They are genuine, and we want to reassure them, but we are taking many safety precautions to keep everyone safe on campus. Another aspect that we want to be mindful of as educators and as families is overload. Even with smaller class sizes and reduced time on campus, a classroom full of social interactions and sensory stimulation may be overwhelming for children, especially when they have been at home for months. Naturally, they may feel a little overwhelmed or overloaded. To help them adjust, build in quiet time or downtime for when they're not in school. Anticipate that their and even your tolerances levels might be lower. They might get frustrated more easily and have more extreme reactions. Help them recognize when they're feeling overwhelmed and practice calming strategies like belly breaths or taking breaks. And remember that even during distance learning, it's going to look different in the hybrid model. It may be difficult to switch back and forth between in-person and online learning and to maintain that engagement in both environments. So try and emphasize that the schedule is meant for everyone to remain safe while giving everyone a chance to go on campus if they want to. Now, I wouldn't be much of a mental health professional if I didn't talk about resiliency. I can only speak for myself, but pretty much this whole year has felt like a long exercise in resiliency. And just as a reminder, resilience is a person's capacity to recover or overcome difficult or tough situations. We know that kids are resilient and that adults play a vital role in our children's resiliency. For our children, we need to teach kids how to be more resilient than ever because experiencing school closures was a really big deal. Then we did distance learning and they were getting used to distance learning. And now they're transitioning back to some in-person learning. All of these have their own specific challenges, and we are expecting resiliency from everyone involved to be able to overcome these challenges. So we need help in preparing our children for this. Ways parents can really help do this is talk with their students and first and foremost, acknowledge the discomfort. It is important that we validate their feelings, whatever they may be, around returning to school. And we don't want to ever ignore or minimize what they are experiencing. Something to kind of keep in mind is we are experiencing a pandemic and all these changes as adults, and they are experiencing them as children. Even though our situations are similar, we are not experiencing them in the same way. We are not processing them in the same way. So really acknowledging that and validating that your child's feelings are valid and that they are experiencing it different than everyone else is very important. Another thing a parent can do is talk about your own personal experiences of overcoming difficult times and using concrete examples. This one is important because adults are role models for our children. The children are picking up on ways to react to situations. It's going to be important to share with your child times that you experience a challenge and how you're able to overcome it. And of course, you'll make it age appropriate and specific to your child and their needs at that time. An additional way to promote resilience in your child is to express gratitude for the situation, but also to acknowledge a student's strengths. When you focus on what a student can do and what they do well, you're instilling confidence in them, and you're acknowledging within them that there is a huge factor for resilience, that they can overcome these times. Another one is to express gratitude for a situation. As we mentioned before, expressing positive thoughts and gratitude can help boost our moods and shift our perspectives. This is an important factor in resilience and can even become a character trait if practiced consistently enough. This can all lead to a more positive lifestyle overall. It's a really great tool to use when you're practicing resiliency. Last but not least is think of ways they can become leaders or helpers. This is also known as being part of the solution. There is a lot of evidence to support when children go through a challenging situation that's out of their control, like a natural disaster or a pandemic. One of the ways for them to process and recover and heal from it is to be part of a solution. In our situation with the pandemic, this can mean asking them to enforce the new school rules and safety procedures, or to overall help others in what it might be difficult for them. Being kind of an active role in that and a leader in that can really help a lot of our children. So as we go through this all together, it is a transition that we're going through together. So please remember, there is a whole community of support. Your child's teachers, principals, and of course, the overall mental health team are there to support your student and your whole family. While we're anticipating levels of excitement, anxiety, and even some of that social fatigue we discussed in our students, there might be other factors that we can't anticipate. So we encourage you all to talk with your teachers and mental health providers at the school site to make sure that we are staying in communication of what the child and our students in general, what their needs are. Each school site has a designated school counselor and school psychologists. So we are all there to support and welcome any communication that you want to provide. There are some great resources here. The first two are from the district, and they might help you kind of guide your discussion with your family about returning to school, the safe reopening, and the health and safety protocols if your child is feeling more anxious about returning to school for COVID reasons. And then the last three are great articles, some by the Child Mind Institute, and they're going through back to school anxiety and managing that anxiety, but also checklists for how to prepare for in-person learning. Just great articles to kind of read through and think about while you're preparing for this return to school. But first and foremost, and most importantly, we are excited to see you and your children. We're eager to have children back in our classrooms. And if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, there's a whole community here of support. And thank you so much for dedicating, this last 10 or 15 minutes to mental health and how it impacts our children. Thank you so much.